The first punch that changed Earth's fate wasn't thrown in a war room. It was thrown in a ring, in front of 90,000 screaming fans and 2 billion confused alien observers. They had been watching us for years. Not our leaders, not our scientists, just our broadcasts, the ones we thought bounced into the void and vanished. Instead, they stitched together our culture from midday cable reruns, pay-per-view marathons, and late-night YouTube rabbit holes. By the time the Zarnithi assembly reached consensus, it was already too late. Earth, they decided, was a warrior planet. Not just any kind of warrior, no. A ceremonial, honor-bound species where disputes were settled in neon-lit arenas by masked champions wielding folding chairs and thunderous monologues. A world where the title of World Heavyweight Champion superseded that of President or Emperor. A world that revered the suplex over the signature. And so, the Zarnithi arrived in peace, bearing tribute. A championship belt forged for neutronium, engraved with the phrase champion of Terra. To the strong, the voice. Naturally, the United Nations panicked. They called in diplomats, linguists, AI negotiators, even a few ex-wrestlers turned actors. Nothing worked. The Zarnithi refused all communication that didn't involve the ritual of combat declaration. They demanded Earth's supreme wrestler. Unfortunately, Earth didn't have one. Not officially. Unofficially, he was in a trailer park outside El Paso, eating canned beans, yelling at his cat, and wearing a sun-faded mask stitched together from the remnants of glory days long buried beneath 6 inches of old paychecks and torn ligaments. His name was Hector El Fuego Supremo Delgado. At 62, his knees clicked like maracas, and his spine was an accordion of bad choices. But the mask still fit, the muscles still twitched. And when the emissaries landed, one of them 8 feet tall and made entirely of gelatinous quartz, they dropped to one knee when he stepped outside with a folding chair slung over one shoulder. He blinked at them. "Y'all at the census?" he asked, scratching his chest. The tall one bowed deeper. "We are the Intergalactic Wrestling Federation." It boomed. "And we recognize you as Earth's last undefeated champion." "I ain't wrestled since, wait. How'd you know I never lost?" "We watched everything, even the backyard tapes." Hector squinted at the nearest one, a humming pile of sentient cables. "So y'all want to fight?" "Not us," the quartz being replied. "But others will." "Of course they will," Hector muttered, already reaching for his boots. Always someone younger with more abs. The ship smelled like ozone, gym socks, and lavender. As Hector walked its corridors, aliens of every color, texture, and metabolic requirement bowed as he passed. Some whistled. A few wept. One small jellyfish being clutched an action figure that looked suspiciously like his 1987 merchandise mold. A circular chamber opened. The lights dimmed. In the center, a ring, ropes lined with plasma thread, canvas padded with moon foam, rose from the floor. A 3-headed commentator floated above them, already announcing Hector's stats in 4 dialects, including ultrasonicum. In this corner, it shrieked, the Terran flame, the suplex of sunset, the hammer of humanity, El Fuego Supremo. The crowd, aliens beamed in holographically from 120 systems, cheered, howled, hissed, and barked in their respective celebration frequencies. Hector cracked his neck. Then the lights dimmed further. The opponent appeared, 7 feet tall, a fusion of bone, armor, and glowing tattoos. From the war planet Gravok, undefeated in 800 matches, nicknamed the Graviton Guillotine. "Rules?" Hector asked, rolling his shoulder. "First to yield," said the quartz being. "And if I lose, Earth becomes a client planet. And if I win, you're promoted to Galactic Tag Team Champion. And Earth joins the council as an equal." He nodded slowly. "Y'all ever consider board meetings?" The quartz didn't answer. The bell rang. The Gravaki charged with a roar that cracked the air. Hector sidestepped like he was dodging a tax collector, letting the alien slam into the corner post. Momentum shifted quickly. Hector ducked, dodged, jabbed where armor cracked. But he was slower now, rusty, out of sync with the rhythm of violence. Until the first body slam. He lifted the creature, a full half-ton of muscle and spite, over his shoulder and slammed it down with a boom that shook the hull. Silence. Then pandemonium. The audience exploded in color and static. One race ignited spontaneously in applause. The floating commentators lost their composure. Earth has entered the ring. The Gravaki rose, dazed. Hector pointed to the stars. This one's for humanity. And then came the El Fuego finisher, a moonsault from the top rope that should have killed a man his age, but instead cracked the floor and knocked the Gravaki out cold. 1, 2, 3. The crowd shrieked. The belt, glowing with the approval of cosmic tradition, materialized around Hector's waist. He wheezed, "Gonna need ice. And tacos." Back on Earth, every major news station carried the footage. Children in Kenya wrestled their goats in homage. An Icelandic ska band changed their name to Piledriver Diplomacy. The stock market spiked, dipped, and then stabilized once the Nasdaq realized the aliens weren't interested in hedge funds. The UN reconvened, not to protest, but to cheer. The planet had its representative. Not a suit, not a soldier. A masked man with a broken nose and an iron will. Within a week, Hector was back in orbit. The council had convened. A new challenger awaited. But he wasn't alone now, because every planet needed a tag team. And Hector knew just the person. He pulled out an old flip phone, dialed a number he hadn't used in 20 years. "Rosie? Yeah, it's me. You still got your mask?" A long pause, then a chuckle on the other end. "You're damn right I do." The ring was bigger this time, wider, hungrier. It floated above the storm belts of Jupiter, enclosed in a pressure-stabilized arena orbiting just fast enough to keep time with the planet's deadly swirl. Below, endless thunder cracked through layers of ochre and crimson. Above, millions of interstellar viewers tuned in through mind links, translation spores, and crystal-embedded broadcast orbs. In the locker chamber, Hector paced slowly, adjusting the strap of the neutronium belt slung around his waist. He'd barely healed from his first match. His ribs ached when he breathed too deep, and his right ankle kept reminding him he wasn't 30 anymore. But that wasn't the part bothering him. It was the second chair. Rosie La Volcanica Reyes had not changed. She walked in wearing red boots, a black and orange mask, and a half-smile that said she remembered every argument, every triumph, every time they'd climbed a cage together to make a crowd scream. "You're limping," she said, glancing down. "I'm surviving. Not good enough. We don't survive this match. We own it." She cracked her knuckles, grabbed her gauntlets, and stepped past him without breaking stride. He smiled. He forgot how much fire she carried behind that voice. The council's emissary, a floating orb wrapped in diplomatic sashes and legal runes, hovered in. Opponents, the sons of Sharrock, twin gladiators from the pressure mines of Vorta Prime. Current record, 204 wins, 0 losses. Style, coordinated destruction. No disqualifications. No outside help. 1 pinfall or submission. "Any chairs allowed?" Rosie asked. Allowed. Encouraged. The orb pulsed green. "Please proceed to the ascension tunnel." As they walked toward the arena, the walls shimmered with projected highlights. Rosie's flaming elbow drop in 99. Hector's triple suplex combo in 02. The infamous Valentine's Day steel cage match that ended with both of them unconscious and the crowd in tears. Their legacy had followed them here. So had their ghosts. The crowd wasn't human. Clouds of sentient vapor screamed with every motion. A spider squid orchestra played a distorted version of Hector's entrance theme. Dozens of worm-like creatures in glittering robes held banners that read, "Earth throws down." The ring glowed with antimatter ropes and zero-grav corner posts. And across it, standing with matching obsidian armor and mirrored helmets, were the sons of Sharrock. They didn't speak. They only rotated their necks in sync and cracked their knuckles loud enough to echo through the void. Rosie tilted her head. I got the tall one. They're both tall. Exactly. The bell didn't ring. It resonated through bone. And then they moved. Hector went low, sweeping the legs of one twin, but his strike was absorbed like a punch into granite. The alien countered, grabbing him mid-motion and hurling him into the ropes, where he bounced like a pinball before Rosie tagged in by slapping his back mid-flight. She launched over the ropes, twisted mid-air, and hit a flying knee to the twins' helmet with a scream. It cracked slightly. A hush fell across the arena. The other twin surged forward, but Hector was already back in, dragging him into a spine buster that sent cracks splintering across the mat. Together, he and Rosie turned, locking eyes, then dropped elbows at the same time, one fiery, one calculated. Impact. Roar. Cheers. But the Sharrock brothers rose. Simultaneously. Untouched. Then came the blitz. 2-on-2 wasn't supposed to feel like being outnumbered, but it did. The twins moved like mirror images, flowing like one creature with 4 arms and a shared rage. Rosie was whipped into a turnbuckle that detonated from the impact. Hector took a backhand that made his vision shudder. He gasped, one knee down, blood in his mouth. Rosie rolled over, trying to stand. "You still with me?" he rasped. She blinked, wiped a line of greenish alien fluid off her forehead. Was hoping for a warm-up match first. They stood, and then Rosie did what no Earth wrestler had ever dared. She removed her mask. A gasp, audible even in vacuum-simulated silence, passed through the alien crowd. "You want Earth's face?" she shouted. "Then look at it." Her eyes burned, not with fire, but fury honed over decades. She charged, barefaced and unyielding, grabbing the nearest twin by the neck and biting his shoulder as she rolled him into a submission hold she invented in a Honduran bar brawl in 2004. Hector took the cue. He dropped the mask too. His face was older, cracked, worn but fierce. The twins faltered. They paused. They hesitated. And that was enough. Hector slammed one with a chair to the side of the helmet, causing a ripple through his armor. Rosie twisted her opponent's arm until it snapped with a sound like frozen steel. Then they switched, finishing the combo with synchronized kicks that sent the Sharrock brothers flying into opposite corners of the ring. The ref, a levitating jellyfish holding a ceremonial light rod, descended quickly. Pinfall. 1, 2, 3. The arena erupted. Back in their chamber, Rosie held an ice pack to her shoulder and stared out at Jupiter. "They're going to keep coming, aren't they?" she asked. Hector nodded. "Every planet with a bone to pick. Every empire that wants to test us. We're not young anymore." "No," he said, "but we're still champions." A chime rang. The orb floated in again. The Council recognizes Earth's tag team as legitimate diplomatic envoys. The next match is scheduled on the crystalline world of Norseth. Opponents, the Choir of Pain. "Great," Rosie muttered. "Sounds cheerful." Hector stood. "You in?" She gave him a long look, then smirked. "Always." Outside, the stars pulsed with anticipation. Earth wasn't just a planet anymore. It was a contender. They arrived on Norseth beneath a sky of fractured glass. The surface shimmered like polished obsidian, each step echoing across crystalline plains that hummed with resonance. Columns of light spiraled from the ground like frozen symphonies, and distant peaks shimmered, refracting alien constellations. The planet itself pulsed with sound, ambient music, layered in chords that changed depending on movement, thought, and emotion. "Feels like we're walking inside a violin," Rosie whispered, adjusting her boots. Hector crouched, touched the ground. The vibration tickled his palms. "You hear that?" She nodded. "It's listening." The arena on Norseth was not built, it grew. A living bowl of translucent mineral arched from the planet's surface, suspended mid-air by harmonics. The crowd wasn't seated. They floated in harmony with the rhythms, beings of frequency and form, their bodies flickering like equalizer bars. Sound was sacred here. Silence, a sentence. At the far end of the ring stood the opponents, the Choir of Pain. 6 figures, hooded, faceless, cloaked in robes woven from threads of compressed audio. No two stood alike in size or shape. They swayed gently, not to music, but to a beat no one else could hear. The referee, a cube of sentient static, materialized in a sudden burst of reverb. Match parameters uploaded. This is a harmonic conflict trial. Combatants must fight in rhythm. Offbeat movements are penalized. Out-of-sync attacks are nullified. Rhythm? Hector asked. Rosie turned. They're turning it into a damn dance battle. No, the cube corrected. Dance is performative. This is existential synchronization. Fail, and your atoms will be disassembled by tonal feedback. Great, Rosie said. No pressure. The countdown began, not in numbers but in rising scales. Ding. The choir moved first. They advanced in fluid unison, arms weaving, steps timed to deep, resonant booms that rose from the arena floor. Each blow they threw sang with weight. A note out of place, a dissonance could splinter bone. Hector ducked a cordal hook, spun sideways, and swung a forearm strike, but missed the beat by half a second. The result? Nothing. The punch passed through his opponent like smoke. Rosie gritted her teeth, closed her eyes, and listened. Then she moved. Her elbow drove into the robed ribcage of one choir member on the fourth beat of a repeating pattern. It connected. The figure recoiled in a burst of shrieking chimes. You hear that? She shouted. 4-count rhythm. Keep your hits on the fourth. Hector nodded and adjusted. He waited, timed it 1, 2, 3, bam. A dropkick collided with a floating choir member, fracturing their mask into a discordant wail. The audience responded in waves of applause, literally. Vibrational energy rippled outward in appreciation, lifting Hector briefly off the floor. But the choir adapted. They shifted tempo. The rhythm fractured into polyrhythms, uneven and jarring. Rosie stumbled. Hector spun to block a jab and misstepped. The feedback blast hurled him across the ring. He slammed against the harmonic ropes, which vibrated painfully along his spine. I can't follow the rhythm anymore, he called out. Rosie stood still, arms extended. The choir encircled her. Their robes flared. 6 harmonic signatures built in unison. They prepared a dissonant crescendo, an attack so out of sync with physical laws that it could unmake her entirely. Then she did the unthinkable. She began to sing. Off-key, purposefully, loud and imperfect. A half-remembered anthem from childhood. Spanish lyrics drifting and raw. The sound warped the air around her, clashing with the choir's purity, injecting chaos into their synchrony. They staggered. What are you doing? Hector called out, stunned. Disrupting their flow. You want rhythm? I'll give you soul. She threw a shoulder into the nearest figure, humming off-tempo, a lullaby from her grandmother's kitchen. The harmonic field glitched. One of the choir dropped to its knees, body shuddering under incompatible frequencies. Hector understood. He didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to be real. He joined in. He stomped in his own rhythm, improvised. Started clapping out a beat from an old mariachi show he saw in a border town. His movements loosened, lost their precision, gained their power. Together, they moved like no alien ever had. Imperfect, heartfelt, messy. It was too much for the choir. They broke formation. Their robes shimmered, lost cohesion. One tried to retaliate with a sonic wave, but Hector countered with a spinning lariat that screamed defiance in every direction. Rosie leapt from the ropes with a war cry and landed on 2 choir members at once, driving them into the crystalline floor, cracking it beneath them. The last member of the choir rose, humming a dirge. Rosie winked at Hector. Time to duet. Hit it. They both grabbed opposite ropes, slingshot into the center, and launched simultaneous strikes, her knee to the chest, his fist to the jaw, on the final downbeat. The figure imploded in a soft harmony, leaving only threads of static. Silence fell, and then the crowd erupted, shifting into a symphony of a million frequencies. Lights soared upward. The harmonic field pulsed with joy. Earth's anthem, recorded in a mishmash of transmissions, kitchen songs, stadium chants, and old commercials, played as the victory signal. The ref cube floated forward. Victory awarded. Earth's resonance is now registered within the Council's cultural registry. Your rhythm is unpredictable, but formidable. Hector leaned against Rosie, panting. We just weaponized mariachi and lullabies. About time. As the arena lowered back toward the surface, a council envoy approached, tall, serpentine, its head crowned with glass antennae. You have earned an invitation, it said. Not to fight, to sit. Sit where? The galactic peace table. Rosie blinked. They have a peace table? It's also a trampoline, the envoy clarified. But yes, very exclusive. Hector looked at her. You think we're ready to stop fighting? She shook her head. No, but maybe we get to choose what we fight for now. And high above North Seth, where stars twinkled like distant bells, Earth's new champions prepared for a different kind of match. The one where words mattered as much as pile drivers.